With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for sunny skies today with a high near 87, tonight clear with a low around 66, and Thursday sunny with a high near 88. For your 4th of July celebration, stock up on fresh meats, seafoods, fruits, and vegetables at Market Fresh, Minnesota, just south of Rosedale on County Road 36, and at Shanghai International Wholesale Market, north of University on Pryor Avenue in St. Paul. Quality, variety, and great prices all in one trip.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Broadcasting from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Welcome to the Gailey Show, the only daily LGBTQ progressive radio news and talk show in America. For as long as we have it, America, I mean. I am your host, John Parker, a professional queer since 2014. Speaking of professional, my executive producer, Jim Pounds, is in the studio with me. Also with us today for the full hour, Jake Wittich, managing editor of Windy City Times, is back with us. Later on, we'll be talking about Jake's recent reporting on Chicago Pride, how Trans Up Front is changing Illinois, and how former Illinois representative and also former House Majority Leader Greg Harris has been honored for decades of LGBTQ advocacy. We'll also be tracking the big suckers bill here in the first half hour. Jake, hello.
Hello. I'd say how are you, but I know we're all doing as good as we can.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, let's dive into what we're dealing with here today. So we're going to be tracking the big suckers bill here. I've got AP News open and a couple of others to see where we're at. They're doing a whole bunch of speeches right now, and I can't really tell what is changing in the bill. It sounds like they're just trying to get to a vote without doing any changes, but we will keep up with that. Where I want to start today is the University of Pennsylvania, and I literally just closed my notes. Sorry. I was like, where did they go? Professional, right? All right. So, but I don't know why I'm still shocked.
Can
things.
Can we back up just 1 second?
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking all colleges are going to face a decision moment like this, right? Most.
Well, let's talk about what just happened yesterday.
Yeah.
And I am coming at this as a former chief diversity officer in higher education. So I started in higher ed teaching as an adjunct journalism and advising a college newspaper and kind of worked my way up. And I was a chief diversity officer at 2 colleges here in Minnesota. And I want to start with a very key piece of knowledge, which is University of Pennsylvania's endowment.
Yes.
Their endowment as of June 30th of last year, was $22.3 billion, comprised of over 8,800 individual endowment funds. And how do they spend the money? Per their website, the endowment distributes money to support a wide range of purposes across the institution, with the vast majority of funds dedicated to instructional use and student financial aid. They use about 5% of the endowment fund every year. So Leah Thomas competed for UPenn as a swimmer. This whole thing is over one athlete, right. Leah, a trans woman, collected numerous accolades in her time on the women's swimming and diving team, Ivy League titles, individual records, and NCAA championships. And at the time of her competitions, specifically in 2022, UPenn and Thomas were in full compliance with NCAA policies and regulations as it came to trans athletes. And they were further in compliance with Ivy League school regulations, since UPenn is apparently a part of the Ivy League. Because of that, UPenn didn't have its own, policies and regulations. Like, look, we've got the Ivy League ones and we've got the NCAA ones. There are officially 2 lines of attack on the university right now. The first is a trio of former students suing the university. They filed their lawsuit earlier this year. The second one is from the Trump administration. Earlier this year, they opened a Title IX investigation, and on top of that, froze $175 million in funding to the university. As a reminder, as of June 30th last year, their endowment was $22.3 billion. Now, regarding the private lawsuit, the university filed a motion in April to get rid of it. The trio of doom counter-motioned, and the Independent Council on Women's Sports, who is the whole thing funding this private lawsuit, anti-LGBTQ organization, said that in 3 weeks, the university is going to be back in court arguing that they did not violate Title IX. The Department of Ed, however, concluded their fake investigation. And I'm calling it a fake investigation because we already knew the outcome before it began. There was no way that Trump's Department of Education was going to find that UPenn was right to allow a trans woman to compete in athletics. So it was a fraudulent investigation. The outcome, we already knew about it. The thing that gets me here is that they're changing policy and they're forcing the NCAA to change the regulations this year, but now they're retroactively going backwards in time to say that someone was violating the law. And that, to me, is the issue here. The executive branch of the U.S. created new laws and interpretation and regulations this year, but are now going back in time to attack a university. And despite having a $22.3 billion endowment, UPenn capitulated. And so now they are required to strip Leah Thomas of all of her titles and records as an athlete. They are going to have to restore to the female, quote-unquote, female athletes all individual swimming records, titles, and recognitions that are now vacated by Thomas's erasure. They have to issue a public statement. And the thing that gets me, UPenn has to send personalized letters of apology to every impacted cisgender woman, which they did yesterday. And underneath, on their website, still today, I noticed this yesterday, still today, they have underneath the announcement of this, they have the audacity to still be listing their equal opportunity non-discrimination statement, which reads, in part, the beginning of it, the University of Pennsylvania values diversity and seeks talented students, faculty, and staff with diverse backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives. Here's the kicker. The University of Minnesota does not discriminate on the basis of race, color, sex, sexual orientation, and, wait for it, gender identity.
You said
Ta
University.
gueule, va te faire foutre.
You said
Merde.
University of Minnesota. You mean Penn State?
Penn State.
Thank
No, not Penn State. University of Pennsylvania.
Oh, University of Pennsylvania.
And I got a message from a friend that was like, you must be so happy you're in radio right now and not a chief diversity officer because you can say what you want. And I said to them, no, I would say this regardless of where I am working.
Right.
An American university, one of the richest ones on the planet, just screwed over one of their students, now an alumnus, made a public spectacle of this student to get back an amount of money that is equal to less than 8% of their endowment. I almost did it right there, Swore.
Yeah, don't do that.
You can't say exactly what you want.
No. We're trying to show Jake how this is done.
The UPenn president, Dr. J. Larry Jamison, said in a statement, "We have now brought to a close an investigation that, if unresolved, could have had significant and lasting implications for the University of Pennsylvania." You have $22.3 billion.
Right. Well, this is why I made my earlier statement, because yes, we watched this university drive its car right off the cliff of legitimacy, but it's not going to be the only one. Every one of them of any size or consequence, anyone that Trump decides to bully is going to face the same thing.
To your point, how is Mankato State going to handle this?
Well,
how is Western Illinois University going to handle this? They have created precedent. And the thing, when you're in higher education, and I'm saying this as a chief diversity officer who's working with administrators, the minute precedent is created, that informs every other decision down the road.
But I think all colleges are in an unprecedented moment. We've never had a president of the country attacking our colleges, which is one of our greatest assets. I mean, it's so irrational. It's hard to discuss. But every college I have a feeling there's going to be a split. I think a lot of people are going to be the cowards that University of Pennsylvania was, and I think a lot of them are going to be braver than that. Maybe, I don't know if Harvard's the best example. It's the one that comes to my mind, who does have some integrity.
They're fighting, and they're also named in this lawsuit of the Trio of Doom. Jake, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm also concerned about the precedent that's set here, especially with the retroactive application of this decision? Like, is this going to set a precedent that trans athletes at other colleges and universities, if they capitulate to this, will they retroactively, do the same thing? And that's horrible. I also think about the mental health impact on trans people. They totally shamed Leah, and that's got to be stressful for her. It's got to be stressful for any other trans athlete right now that's being targeted. So I'm concerned on many fronts here.
Yeah.
I do not, and the thing is that I know there's a lot of people listening to the show right now that are saying it's one student, and there was some jerk that called in last week that thankfully they didn't get us on the phone.
Right.
That was like, the reason why the Democrats lost is nobody cares about this LGBTQ bleep. And I'm like, if you don't care about it, why are you so obsessed with us?
Right.
Why are you so obsessed with it? Why is the Supreme Court so obsessed with us? Why is MAGA so? Why are they spending all of this legislative time here? But the thing that gets me is that when you say, oh, well, this is just one student, this is an American university who has now said to the executive branch, yes, you can come up with bogus investigations and we will bend the knee.
Very bad precedent. Yeah.
And who cares if it's just one student? Like, if one person's not equal, we're all not equal.
Right.
And I know a lot of people now will roll their eyes, Jake, to that. They'll roll their eyes and they go, whatever, they always say that, the liberals and the lefties. Okay, they're literally deporting students, college students, based off of the fact they don't like their political speech. They just yanked $6 billion in after-school programming funding.
Right. Because
they're saying that it's been that the lefties are using it to get people in the country illegally.
After school programming?
And that they're using the money to help undocumented students get scholarships that are supposed to go to American students.
Yeah. Well,
and that also, I'm like, wait a minute, you have a $22 billion endowment, right? So that means you have the funding to take this to the Supreme Court. And the interesting thing about the Supreme Court is that they would have to reverse themselves on their own ruling of Bostock versus Clayton County that was 5 years ago, where they did say that LGBTQ discrimination is sex-based discrimination and therefore protected under Title VII. Guess what? The language in Title VII, I looked it up, is the exact same language as in Title IX. And I also looked it up. There have been 8 federal courts that have taken up whether Bostock, Title VII protections, applies to Title IX. 4 have said no, 3 said yes, and 1 said maybe. Jake, Jim, your thoughts? I am clearly...
It's just maddening. I'm at a loss for words almost, which is not good.
I think for me, the reason I've set up this either or is because I want to praise all the good ones and denigrate the bad ones. And I don't mean to be so black and white, but I think that's where we're at. There'll be good colleges with integrity, bad colleges with no integrity.
I have another thought. Clearly, I have lots of thoughts today. I have to fit in a hard break here. Check out more progressive news and talk at am950radio.com and heartlandsignal.com. You're listening to The Gailey Show.
I'm Amy Ruzick with No Place Like Home at RE/MAX Results. We were so proud to sponsor AM950's booth and all of the incredible live shows throughout Pride, from the illegal trans woman to the Gailey Show and more. It was an honor to stand with our community and celebrate everything Pride represents. At No Place Like Home, we're deeply committed to helping people find a place where they feel safe, welcome, and supported. We're more than real estate agents. We educate, advocate, and give back. Whether you're buying, selling, or just exploring your options, we're here to help you feel truly at home. With LGBTQ plus rights under attack, Pride was a powerful reminder of what makes Minnesota special. We're proud to help people find a place where they truly belong. Thanks for celebrating with us. Learn more at noplacelikehome.info. At No Place Like Home, we work hard for our clients while serving the community we love.
For a decade, it's captivated Twin Cities audiences, and now the cultural phenomenon Glen Sheen returns. This captivating musical by Jeffrey Hatcher and Chan Poling features strong performances from a talented 7-member ensemble and Ron Peluso's brilliant direction. It's a limited engagement, July 7th through the 25th at the History Theater in downtown St. Paul. Get tickets at historytheater.com. That's History Theater, spelled RE.com.
Your time is precious. Why are you still mowing your own lawn? I'm Alex Knorr, a young, hardworking entrepreneur serving the Southwest Metro with affordable lawn care. At Buzzcut Mowing, I offer weekly mowing, leaf cleanups, aeration, dethatching, tree trimming, and mulch installation. I work hard so you can relax and enjoy time with family and friends. Call today and I'll handle the rest. Visit buzzcutmowingmn.com. That's buzzcutmowingmn.com.
Hi, this is Laura with Food Freedom Radio, and I invite you to discover 2 local grocery stores with a global fare. Market Fresh, south of Rosedale, carries fresh vegetables, quality meats, seafood, and a wide variety of grocery staples, all in a welcoming store. Shanghai Wholesale Market is in the St. Paul Midway area, and it's a food warehouse open to the public. Shanghai Wholesale carries more than 500 types of noodles. And frankly, it's time for Minnesotans to learn that pasta is a little bit more than spaghetti noodles and tuna casserole. There's sweet potato, bean, rice, fresh, frozen, rye. It's a paradise for those seeking gluten-free pasta. Also, both Market Fresh and Shanghai Wholesale Market seek to buy local, so you can look for local quail eggs, unique cheeses, and Minnesota-made tofu. Open the door to food abundance. Discover Market Fresh, your local Asian food store just south of Rosedale, and Shanghai Wholesale Market, your local international food warehouse north of Menards in the St. Paul Midway area.
Welcome back to the Gailey Show. I'm John Parker. We're coming up on the bottom of the hour. I am joined this hour by my executive producer, Jim Pounds, and managing editor of Windy City Times, Jake Wittich. Jim, you said before the break about how we need to be zeroing in on the folks who are doing the good work and remembering the folks who are the universities who are not doing that. And I feel like with this decision, they have thrown their students under the bus. And they could come for anyone right now if Trump tells them to come for anybody. And I just feel like the students should be on strike. The faculty should be on strike. The administrators who are involved in this decision, they need to be disinvited from speaking gigs. They need to be, professional memberships need to be revoked.
Mm-hmm.
I just, this is unacceptable. And this feels like people are probably listening like, wow, this is a straw that broke the camel's back. I'm just going to say that right now for me right now. Like all of the bleep that's been going on right now, the merde that's been happening here, this really broke me because I have always seen higher education as a place where I, as a queer person, can go to be safe, to be myself, and to now know that the president of the United States can pull funding from one of the richest universities in the world, and they will bend the knee for 7.8% of their endowment. Who knows what their actual budget is? I'm like, if you can't absorb that and you're going to humiliate a trans person, a trans woman who competed legitimately under all of the official rules of that time.
Well, and their endowment grows every year. I mean, until his tariffs start going into place, then
Donors should stop.
Yeah, I think everybody needs to take this as a temperature check. You know, what do we think about that?
And regardless of whether you agree with trans inclusion in sports or not, you should agree. If they followed all the known rules at the time, it's only fair that they are honored.
Yeah. Retroactive punishment is, I don't think anybody finds that fair.
I've seen reporting on this from other outlets. I haven't gone and verified this, but legit outlets, I believe AP News, did go and look at the records, and they did remove Leah from this, but then there's an asterisk at the bottom saying, at one point, we had an athlete here who did this work, and here were her records.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
so on the one hand, you could read that as like resistance, like haha, like
right.
we're still honoring her work,
right.
And at the same time, I'm like, but you're further acknowledging this horrifying decision of yours.
Right. Well, it's the same thing corporate America is going to go through. And some are doing the right thing and most aren't.
And I don't understand how this guy, Trump, can manage to keep cases in court for years.
Yeah.
For years. Are you telling me that the University of Pennsylvania couldn't find some litigation tactics to push this off and push this off and push this off until he's out of office?
Mm-hmm.
Are you kidding me?
Are you suggesting this was their desire? That it sort of gave them an opportunity?
I'm thinking
bail
a
on their
bunch of people and the athletics department, whoever, went to that board and that president said, we're not doing this over one trans woman. Do it. Make the deal. Get over it. It doesn't matter that we're going to humiliate ourselves by writing personalized letters of apology
to these terrible,
and that we're going to humiliate an alumnus,
right?
A person who paid tuition.
Yep.
And this is not just erasing history, it's threatening the future.
Yes.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I mean, all of our institutions are going to be, threatened, and most of them are not stepping up so far. I mean, today, we haven't talked about this. I don't know if you plan to, but Paramount capitulated.
I have it right here.
Okay. So there's another institution.
As a broadcaster.
Yeah.
I have been in broadcasting. I started when I was 18 years old, worked my way up for the first 10 years of my career before moving into higher education. And the fact that Paramount, what's her face, Sherry Redstone, is like, I need my merger with Skydance Media. So I'm going to pay $16 million to Trump's presidential library to make this lawsuit go away, where he's like whining, oh, you caused me mental anguish because you didn't release the unredacted transcripts of the Kamala Harris interview on 60 Minutes. And I don't even know why I just said unredacted, because there's no redaction.
Right. It was a phony lawsuit just to hold her hostage. It's extortion. He's a professional extortionist.
They're making it, he's making it, and the case is making it sound like there was malfeasance and a cover-up happening. And I'm like, no, Jake, you know this. I mean, you're an editor. Talk to it, share with the folks. If I'm saying it, they're just gonna be like, oh, whatever, John's just being on this high horse today. But Jake, talk to us about when you do an interview and you do multiple interviews, you're an editor. Tell them about the editing process.
I mean, we take it very seriously. Things are fact-checked. Things are double-checked. Facts matter. And what people say on the record matters.
But you don't put the whole interview in the paper. I mean,
no, never. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You pick the parts that are most relevant to the question, and the stuff that's fluff, you get rid of. And if she was sitting there and like mumbling about something, I'm like, excuse me, do you know how much editing we have to do on Trump? The freaking New York Times, despite the fact that they're a whole MAGA newspaper, frankly, at this point, particularly when it comes to trans people.
Right.
But they sit there and even had an argument last year where they're like, are we complicit in sane washing this man? Because we constantly go in and find the quotes that are normal, that make it seem like he's talking sense, and we get rid of all of the nonsense,
insanity
out of there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Watching the updates on the big suckers bill right now, they're not voting yet. Something I wanted to flag was that the Democrats are using a parliamentary tactic, or they were earlier today, where they were going up one at a time to request an amendment on a resolution. And the Rep. Steve Womack, who was presiding, was like, no, you can't do that. And then another one would show up and say, I want to amend a resolution. And you go, no, you can't do that. And so they're doing this like over and over again. There were folks that were at the White House today. Trump was trying to lean in on them. And there are folks that are saying that rules are going to, like a rules vote, like a Freedom Caucus chair is saying that the House lacks the vote to advance the bill. This was at 12:30 Central Time on Wednesday. This is here, right here. AP News reporting that Rep. Eric Burleson, who is a Freedom Caucus member, says the changes the Senate made to the bill are simply unacceptable. Quoting here from AP reporting. Burleson said that Republican leaders promised when we passed it to allow to go to the Senate that they would live up to the framework and any kind of tax cuts would be reciprocated with spending cuts. And it doesn't meet that framework we were promised. And so it's really about making people live up to the promises. That doesn't sound good for getting it passed today. But
Well, I think most people that I've heard talk about this say that it will ultimately pass, but in what form? Right?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah. Well, we've got to go to a break here, so we'll be back soon. We can tie the
We've
knot
got
on
Jake is
this.
on mute here. I think we've lost Jake's audio, but we're gonna take a quick break and we'll come back and talk more with Jake about his recent reporting. You're listening to The Gaily Show.
Hey, Minnesota, it's Brad Friedman, host of the Bradcast. We'll expose and make sense of all of our current political nightmares and more every weeknight at 7 on AM 950.
Your Twin Cities Metro Public Libraries are committed to providing quality services, resources, and programs to the LGBTQ plus community. Check out the Metro Pride book list, including ebooks and e-audio for kids, teens, and adults at melsa.org/pride-booklist. That's MELSA.org/pride-booklist. You'll find titles specific to different identities, including aromantic, asexual, bi+, gay. Okay, Jake, we are still live on YouTube, so everyone can still hear us. But did you switch up? Can we hear you now? Let's see.
Let's see. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to use these.
Okay. Are you using like a USB mic?
Yeah, it's a USB mic. It's from Amazon, so maybe it's not quality, but I've never had issues with it.
Yeah, it sounds good. What is so it was USB and you're plugged in. It was just constantly going. That's weird.
That's so weird. Yeah.
Okay. Well, how about then we'll have you throw at the end of this break.
Okay, cool.
I'm sorry. At the end of this segment, I keep saying break.
Cool. I'm worried about my clock. I think it's a little behind seconds wise. So
what does it say right now?
2:31:12.
Nope, that was perfect.
Okay, perfect.
Exactly it. Okay, we will go back to the feed.
Cool.
Don't worry about a thing. We do all the work for you. Contact us for a free quote. There's no obligation. Visit junkmastersmn.com to get started today.
It's no secret that medical care costs are soaring, with nursing home and skilled nursing care costs being some of the highest. You don't have to deplete your savings in order to receive long-term care. At Schroman Law, we work with families to develop and implement strategic planning for medical assistance for long-term care, for assisted living, nursing home care, or home-based care. Contact us today to schedule a free consultation at schromenlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
Chanhassen Dinner Theaters brings you its most popular show of all time, Grease. You'll hear all your favorite hits from the Broadway musical and the movie. Join the whole gang at Rydell High. We'll sing, we'll dance, we'll bring you back to high school life in the 50s. Poodle skirts, bobby socks, the soda shop, and drive-in movies. Grease! It'll rock your socks off. Order your tickets today. Visit chanhassendt.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for sunny skies today with a high near 87, tonight clear with a low around 66, and Thursday sunny with a high near 88. Celebrate the 4th of July with the freshest ingredients in town. There's Market Fresh Minnesota, located just south of Rosedale on County Road 36, and Shanghai International Wholesale Market, located north of University on Pryor Avenue. They have everything you need: meats, seafood, fruits, and vegetables, all at great prices for your holiday cookout.
AM 950 KTN up, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Coming to you from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Welcome back to The Gaily Show, the only daily LGBTQ progressive radio news and talk show in the United States. I'm your host, John Parker, joined by executive producer Jim Pounds here in the studio. It is about 33 minutes after the hour. Windy City Times has been the voice of Chicago's LGBTQ plus community since 1985. This year marks the news outlet's 40th anniversary of uplifting queer stories, reporting with pride and chronicling LGBTQ plus history. Visit windycitytimes.com/newsletters to sign up for the publication's weekly LGBTQ plus news updates. Jake Wittich is managing editor of Windy City Times, where he reports in-depth stories on Chicago's LGBTQ plus community and oversees the publication's growing newsletter operation, which is delightful. I love reading them every week. I am not just saying that, I do. We've got so Jake, hello, welcome back.
Hello.
We've got a number of your stories to get to. Can we start with Illinois' former House Majority Leader, Rep. Greg Harris? He was recently honored at the AIDS Garden in Chicago, yes?
Yeah. It was a beautiful ceremony. It was a very hot day, actually. I had to hide in the shade, but it was a beautiful ceremony. Greg Harris is like a trailblazer here in Illinois. Not only did he break down barriers as one of the first openly gay people in the Illinois legislature, also one of the first HIV positive legislators in Illinois. He's mentored so many people and made sure he's not the last that's in office in our state. So it was just a really great ceremony. He's retired now. He's still very active in supporting the scene, supporting queer rights. And it was just a really good ceremony to honor him.
I wanted to ask real quickly, for those of us not in Chicago, what is the AIDS Garden Chicago?
Yeah, it's really cool, actually. It's on public parkland. It's near the lakefront, and it's a historical gathering area where in the 80s, gay people gathered in public at a time where we really couldn't exist in public. So it's near the Belmont Rocks is what it was called. If you look at some archival photos, Owen Keenan, actually, he's a historian here in Chicago. He's writing a book on this. He's been collecting photos. They would graffiti the rocks, and there were so much art and creativity existed there. They had to fix the revetment, so that's all gone now. And this AIDS Garden is a way to honor that history while also looking ahead to the future and celebrating that people with HIV can live long, healthy lives now, while paying tribute to those who sadly had passed away.
Oh, that's amazing. Talk to us about the work that Representative Harris did. So, like, in addition to community service work and legislation aimed at supporting those with HIV and AIDS and obviously LGBTQ rights, also co-founded an organization.
Yeah, Open Hand Chicago, which was one of the first programs in Chicago supporting people with HIV with meals. So he's done a lot for the community of people living with HIV. He also wrote bills in Illinois, which passed that got civil unions between same-sex couples allowed in Illinois before same-sex marriage was a thing. And then he also wrote the bill that became Illinois same-sex marriage law. So he's done a lot for our community, and it's really great to see him honored. He has a plaque now at the Garden that celebrates his impact.
And he was House Majority Leader up until 2023, correct?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact year. It's a blur, everything since the pandemic, but he was, yeah. And I do want to get back to him being such a mentor to so many politicians. Yeah, his heart's in a good place. It really seems like it. And I am a journalist. I don't want to say that too flippantly, but I really do feel that. I remember being a college student and covering a fundraiser for Alderman Tom Tunney. He's the first gay alderman in Chicago. And I was shy. I was really nervous. I had not covered politics before, and I'm at this fundraiser nervous. And Greg Harris came up to me, and he probably doesn't even remember this. Maybe he does. I don't know. And he just struck up a conversation with me. He asked me all about my school, what my interests were, and he started introducing me to people in the room and really helped me get out of that.
Oh, that's great.
That is great. I wish more people did things like that.
Did he ever consider running for statewide office?
I'm not too sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, we're talking with Jake Wittich, managing editor of Windy City Times. You also have an amazing profile of Trans Upfront and how they are changing Illinois. Can you share more with us about the organization? Like, who is Trans Upfront and what is their mission?
Yeah, Trans Upfront is a grassroots organization led by Asher McMarr and Charlie Friedman. They are two trans people. They're a couple here in Illinois, and they have been quietly supporting families with transgender people throughout the state for about a decade. They run a private Facebook group for parents with trans kids where they can discuss certain issues. They have weekly virtual meetups and support groups and things like that. They discuss gender affirming care. They help families navigate that for their youth. And they formalized as Trans Upfront Illinois back in February after the executive orders came out banning or attempting to ban gender affirming care for youth. Lurie Children's Hospital, which Asher, the founder of Transit Front, actually helped Lurie develop some of its programming for youth receiving gender affirming care. Yeah. And they have a trans daughter as well. The daughter actually transitioned first, and Asher told me it really, seeing her daughter live authentically really unlocked something in Asher's own self that allowed Asher to understand their gender as well. So basically, they were outraged by Lurie Children's Hospital's decision to comply with this executive order. And so they led this massive protest.
And wow, that's as
yeah, it's really cool. And since then, they've sorry.
No, I was just going to say, when you've been in an equity position before and you're working with somebody, we've seen it here with Target, where it's just such a betrayal when you're working with somebody and you're making good progress and then they just abandon it. But I want to come back to the point that you were making about sustained advocacy, because Asher and Charlie had been working for a number of years. And I kind of want to affirm or kind of lift that up, because I think a lot of times folks just think that these organizations just pop up in an hour of need. And it's actually years of work. And now you're saying it's been a decade of work that was leading up to this year.
Yeah, they really have. And I've got so many questions like, who is this group? Where are they coming from? Why are you covering them so much now? Why are they legitimate? And in getting to know Asher and Charlie more, I realized, like, when Brave Space Alliance, our Black and trans-led organization on the South Side, was in its infancy, they would help Brave Space. Asher would help Brave Space Alliance organize its annual Unicorn Ball, which was a fundraiser for the organization. Asher also volunteered for Equality Illinois and did work. Howard Brown Health as well helped with their gender affirming policies. So Asher's quietly done a lot of work. And that's why when it came time for their first protest, they had maybe about 50 other organizations that signed on to it. And it's because of the connections that Asher had made in the years building up to this.
Wow. And then they've also organized a number of protests since then.
Yes, exactly. So they organized a massive one just before Transgender Day of Visibility. And that probably drew close to 5,000 people. That there was a giant rally downtown. They marched through the downtown area. It was pouring rain and it didn't stop anything. And I think the rain made it more powerful that people still showed up. Yep. They've showed up at drag story times, and rather than so we've had drag story times in Chicago targeted by anti-LGBTQ protesters, as is happening across the country. And what they do is they stage really joyful, affirming things at these protests so that the kids have no clue it's usually just like 4 counter protesters, but the kids have no clue there's these hateful groups that are showing up. Asher treats it like a pride parade. They create a tunnel of pride flags that the kids walk through as they enter the library. There's dance parties and things like that.
Nice.
Oh, I love that. I love that. You were saying earlier that their daughter, Noella, transitioned first. And that's actually that is a thing that I've talked to a number of folks about over the past few years, is that where a child, transitions, and then that sort of just helps the parents begin to understand who they are. And then you see, a parent transition. Are you able to share a little bit about Noella? Because she's like 13 and a scientist and walks fashion runways. And I read her in the article and I just loved it.
Yeah, it's really cool. I hoped I would get to talk to Noella for this story, but the parents just wanted to keep it at them, which I totally respect. But yeah, Noella came out at a young age. I forget how young, but she's 13 now. And she walked in fashion runway at New York Fashion Week. I think maybe even Paris Fashion Week. She's done interviews with other publications as well. And she is a rising STEM star. At her school, there was like a robotics competition she was in, and Asher and Charlie were so proud because like their first go round, they got to they had 2 attempts with the robot, and the first time was like an underwater robot. Something went wrong, and Noella just took charge between then and the second round, and Noella led the team, was like, here's what we got to do. We got to fix this, this, and this. And then the second go around, they aced it. So she's got a passion for that. She wants to go into STEM in her career. And something she and I have in common is we are both super big nerds about Pokemon. So we relate about that.
Oh, that's funny. I love that. So Trans Up Front is now also having a impact on the national stage, right? Like at World Pride, they were also there.
Yeah, they were at the Human Rights Conference. Asher moderated a panel. I forget the topic, which one's which, but the focus was just like youth advocacy, trans youth advocacy, and then building the next generation of trans leadership. So that's what Asher spoke about. And Asher told me they met trailblazers. Names are escaping me. For some reason, I'm just thinking of the famous drag queens, but they were asking like, wow, so how do you tackle these actions at the drag story times? And they were like taking notes like, wow, we need to apply this to our own shows. So really cool that they're having an impact nationally. And I guess you could say globally. It was World Pride,
Mm-hmm. So what is next for them? Like, what are they working on?
Yeah, they just got became a 501c3. So they're really fundraising this year. They actually have a fundraiser coming up. Check chicagosocialbutterflies.com. That's our queer events calendar. We have it on there for the exact date. And it's called Drag Up Front. And it's a drag show. It's a drag brunch. And they're using it to raise money for their organization. I think it's this Sunday.
So that's great to have a 501c3 status and to be able to just begin to fund systematically the work that they're doing. Did they give you any indication of like, this is what folks need to be doing to supporting the community beyond obviously donating to Trans Upfront? Like, do they have a sense of where their organizing is going to need to go over the next 6 months to a year until the midterms?
Yeah, there's a really strong call for allies to get involved. A lot of these families that have trans kids don't have the luxury of speaking out right now. They risk being targeted. They risk being, especially who knows what the federal government's going to do if they can identify families that are supporting their kids in their transition. So they really need allies that can speak up for these families that can't. So it's super important that people pay attention, they educate themselves, and they listen. And when other families can't speak up, we do that for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't really, was there an organization that's sort of filling this space beforehand, or are they're sort of stepping up and saying, no, here's what needs to be happening?
I think, there's a lot of organizations that focus on trans rights broadly in Chicago, but their specific focus is trans youth. And I think that's so important right now as we have so many executive orders, bills, laws, whatever, just rhetoric attacking trans youth specifically. To have a group that's advocating for them is key right now.
And the Supreme Court.
Yeah, and the Supreme Court left that one out. Who could forget? Yeah.
Who can forget the Supreme Court? They just love coming after the kids. And will also go.
They were the first to know when the Scrimeti decision came out. Like HRC tapped them as their local partners, and the ACLU did. So when that came out, Trans Up Front was there at the press conference. They were the first ones to text me like, decision's out. Here's the action. Here's the protest. So
wow.
Yeah, it's really cool to see how much recognition they've gotten and legitimacy they've gotten so quickly. But it really does build on years of advocacy they've done behind the scenes. Awesome. So that's a little bit about Trans Up Front. We're going to throw it to a break here, but I'm excited to come back after the commercials and talk more about some other stories at Windy City Times.
The Zero Res Master Certified Area Rug Cleaning Team in St. Louis Park is having the biggest cleaning sale of the year. Clean one rug and get 20% off. 2 rugs, 25% off. 3 area rugs get 50% off your area rug cleaning purchase. Pickup and delivery options are available. We're getting into the heat of the summer. You're going to be having barbecues, friends and family over at your house. Your rug called that's tired of being stomped on, spilled on, sneezed on, and ignored like a salad at a barbecue. We treat your rugs gently, even the fancy ones you bought on vacation and immediately regretted. Wool, synthetic, braided, patterned, passed down from grandma. If it lays flat and collects dirt, we clean it. Schedule your appointment at zeroresminnesota.com or call 9520-RES and ask for the AM 950 special. Spell it backward or forward spells the same. It still spells, dang, that rug looks good. Zero Res.
End-of-life decisions are not easy to make. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Hospice Care. It's important to make sure that this difficult time is meaningful and comforting to you and your loved ones. Our hospice team provides an individualized program of physical, emotional, spiritual, and practical care so your loved one is comfortable and not in pain. At Mary T. Hospice, we understand that choosing the right hospice care provider can be overwhelming, but we're here to assist you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
Crooners is a classic supper club with a wide range of entertainment. Make your reservations for a parade of international, national, and local artists in the main stage showroom, the intimate Dunsmore Jazz Room, or outdoors at the seasonal Belvedere Under the Stars space. Or enjoy Maggie's Piano Lounge. Enjoy 4-star food and drinks with first-class supper club service. What are you waiting for? Go to croonersmn.com for more information and schedule. That's croonersmn.com.
For a decade, it's captivated Twin Cities audiences, and now the cultural phenomenon Glen Sheen returns. This captivating musical by Jeffrey Hatcher and Chan Poling features strong performances from a talented 7-member ensemble and Ron Peluso's brilliant direction. It's a limited engagement July 7th through the 25th at the History Theater in downtown St. Paul. Get tickets at historytheater.com. That's History Theater, spelled R-E.com.
Market Fresh Minnesota is your to-go destination for fresh vegetables, quality meats, seafood, and a wide variety of grocery staples. Locally owned and operated, Market Fresh Minnesota brings together the best of Asian foods in one welcoming store that is also kind to the pocketbook. Discover Market Fresh, your local Asian food store, just south of Rosedale on 1800 County Road 36.
Welcome back to the Gailey Show. We are coming up on the top of the hour. I'm John Parker, Jim Pound's executive producer, in the studio with me. Windy City Times has been the voice of Chicago's LGBTQ plus community since 1985. Jake Wittich is their managing editor, has been joining us here for the full hour. We're so grateful and lucky for that. I know that Pride Month is technically over and now the straights get to go back to having all the time, but let's reflect on Chicago Pride this year, because there really was a community focus on the Pride Parade that happened this past Sunday.
Yeah, it was a huge celebration. We probably got about 800,000 people as spectators at this year's parade, close to 1 million. And I'm calling it a community-powered celebration. We had fewer sponsors this year. We had 8 compared to 13 last year. But the organizers told me the loss in revenue was completely offset by donations, which is awesome. Pride Chicago organizes the parade. They just became a nonprofit in the last year, actually. And it's all volunteer. They had a huge team of volunteers leading the parade. Leading as in organizing it. And it was just fantastic. There were a lot of new things too. Rather than having celebrity grand marshals, we had 2 people from the community. We had Dr. Maya Green, who just opened Onyx Medical Wellness, which is a Southside LGBTQ health center. And then Dr. Catherine Credicos, who is an ally. The first time an ally has actually been a grand marshal in our parade, which is cool. And she does a lot of HIV work for Howard Brown Health. So really cool, a great community focus.
So like a health focus too for...
Yeah, that was the theme for the Grand Marshals. And then for the first time ever, they called it the Out Front Leader. And it was just a community group that was among the first in the parade to kind of lead it down. And that was Task Force Prevention and Community Services, which started as an HIV focused organization. That's still an element of their focus, but they have a fantastic youth program called the Vogue School, where they use ballroom culture to build community and leadership among young queer people while connecting them to vital resources that they need. So it was really cool.
Did they Vogue on the parade?
They did. Yes. I was having some issues with my camera. I'm a self-taught, I don't know what I'm doing half the time. So check out my coworkers' photos. There's some cool ones of them voguing. Mine came out a little blurry, but it was awesome. Yeah.
I did see from the photos that Cook County Commissioner and candidate for Congress, Kevin Morrison, was also marching in the parade.
He was, yes. I didn't get a chance to talk to him. Before the parade, all the electeds go to a party at this bar called Fat Cat, just north of the parade starting point. I was there. I think he might have popped by, but not at the time I was there. So I didn't talk to him, but I talked to so many other elected officials about why Pride is so important this year, what issues are top of mind. And as expected, it was recent Supreme Court rulings affecting gender affirming care, the attacks on trans youth, the opt-out of LGBTQ lessons, Supreme Court ruling, a lot of things like that were top of mind. So it was good to hear that our elected officials are concerned about that and paying attention.
Did you say that bar's name was Fat Cat?
Yeah, when you said that, I thought of the Onion, and I thought, is that an onion? All the politicians showed up at Fat Cat.
Right.
When you're saying that about the conversations you were having, it reminded me of the conversations that we were having here at our Pride Festival. It was our parade and the festival simultaneously this past weekend, and I think that the vibe was that folks were happy to be in community together, but politics was like right there, top of mind.
It so was. I was in the parade route, so I was interviewing people on the sidelines. I was interviewing people as they marched, taking photos, and it's so much noise, so many people screaming. But the people that got the groups that got the largest reaction, number one, Governor Pritzker. Like, it was thunderous. Like, I was blown away, in shock. I'm kind of getting chills thinking about it, actually. Like, people, at least that were at the parade, love him. And then next was, there were two groups, the Puerto Rican Cultural Center's Trans Chicago Empowerment Center. They carried protest signs calling for the abolition of ICE, and huge reaction, positive reaction from the crowd for that. And then last in the parade was a similar group, the Gay Liberation Network, that had a similar message against ICE, and people went crazy for that. So
now, did you say President Pritzker?
Did I say president?
No, I was hoping.
It seems like that's not happening. So
he's announced that he's running for a third term.
Yeah, which I thought maybe he would run for president, but when our Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton announced she's running for Congress, I'm actually hoping to interview her within the next couple of weeks once I get back from vacation. When she announced she's running for Congress, I was like, okay, Pritzker's gonna stay as governor, I think. So.
Okay. When is his term up?
I'll have to double check. So I'm sorry. I think
it was.
It's 26.
It was interesting. I was listening.
Yeah, I think it's 26. Yeah.
I was listening to Richard. Well, that's plenty of time. He can still be governor, and then
I know he could. I feel the same.
The reason why I say that is that on Monday I was listening to on WCPT Richard Chu and Joan Esposito, and they were saying how they were concurring and coming to from a different ways, but they were like, a governor is going to be the candidate. It's not going to be a senator. It's not going to be a representative. It needs to be a governor right now. And I just thought that was a very interesting. We're going to be keeping our eye on Governor Pritzker.
Yeah, we'll see. So
see where he's going. I do want to give folks some updates. The House doesn't have the votes, literally. Apparently, there are weather delays happening in Washington, and not all of the GOP legislators are back. So they quite literally don't have the votes to get this done right now. That was as of a couple minutes ago, per the AP News reporting. So, a quick question, Jake, did you get to see the WCPT float?
I did, yes. I didn't. I wish I took photos. I was so distracted doing an interview as they passed, so I didn't really get to do much. But I did notice as they were passing, like, oh, that's them. So
that's them. Well, great. Well, thank you so much, Jake, for spending this hour with us. I can't wait to have you back here again in a couple weeks. And you're also going to be filling in for us when Jim and I are on vacation later this month. So we're very much in gratitude to you.
I'm grateful too. I'm really excited for the opportunity.
You can visit windycitytimes.com/newsletters to sign up for the publication's weekly LGBTQ+ news updates. Thank you, everyone, for listening today. Up next on WCPT 820 is Chu's Views with Richard Chu. On AM 950 Radio, it's the Matt McNeil Show, and stay tuned after that for Native Roots Radio. And then step into the unknown with Greg Bakken on Ghost Box Radio at 10 p.m. Central. Connect with us on Blue Sky. We're at thegayleyshow.org on Blue Sky. And until tomorrow, keep it queer, America.
Keep it queer.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation.